Actress Rebecca Schaeffer was shot to death Tuesday in the doorway of her Los Angeles apartment.
Rebecca Schaeffer was a beautiful young TV star featured in the program My Sister Sam. But like John Lennon, Rebecca was stalked and shot down right outside her home, a frightening and senseless crime.
She was a rising star, full of life, adored by millions, loved by her fans, and destined for a glorious future in Hollywood. She had the beauty, the talent, and the incredible charm that promised a long and successful career in the film industry. But on a warm July morning in 1989, all of that came crashing down. With a single pull of a trigger, her life was stolen on her very own doorstep, where she was murdered by an obsessed fan who couldn't separate fantasy from reality. Her death shocked the nation. Fans and her fellow celebrities were left totally shaken. How could a young, hugely talented and charming actress just have her life cut short in such a horrific manner? The whole country was left reeling with the tragedy for several months. Her passing was all that media outlets talked about. Her tragic death would not only shock the world but also change American laws forever. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to tell you a story that shocked Hollywood, changed American laws, and serves as a stark reminder of how fame can sometimes attract the most dangerous kind of attention. It's the story of Rebecca Schaeffer, a young actress who had her whole life ahead of her, until one obsessed fan showed up at her doorstep and ended it all in the most tragic way. Rebecca's story is not just about the loss of a promising star, but about how society came to recognize stalking as a deadly problem. It's about the dreams of a girl from Oregon who made it to Hollywood, only to be taken away at the very moment she was rising to fame. So sit back as I take you through the heartbreaking story of Rebecca Schaeffer, the life she lived, the career she built, and the horrifying way it was stolen from her. Rebecca Lucille Schaeffer was born on November 6, 1967, in Eugene, Oregon. She was the only child of Benson Schaeffer, a child psychologist, and Dana Schaeffer, a writer and teacher. From an early age, Rebecca was bright, artistic, and full of curiosity. Her parents encouraged her creative side, and Rebecca quickly discovered her love for performing. She attended South Eugene High School, where she was known as a friendly and driven student. Rebecca wasn't just beautiful, she had a kind of charm that drew people to her. Friends described her as warm, approachable, and always willing to listen. Even in her teenage years, people could see she had something special. Rebecca was also very beautiful, and it was not long before she began modeling. She was actually raised Jewish and initially aspired to become a rabbi, before eventually changing her mind and began modeling. Rebecca began modeling during her junior year in high school. At first, she started modeling locally, and it was clear she had a talent for the camera. Rebecca had that rare quality that made her stand out in a photo or on screen, something casting directors later described as a natural star presence. During this time, she appeared in department store catalogs and television commercials. She also landed the role of an extra in a television film. By the time she was 16 years old in 1984, Rebecca worked a summer in New York City with elite model management and, with her parents' permission, stayed in the city to pursue modeling. While she was working in New York, she also decided to attend Professional Children's School, a not-for-profit college preparatory school that was geared toward working and aspiring child actors and dancers in grades 4 through 12. Rebecca also had a short-term role on the daytime soap opera called Guiding Light while in New York. From all indications, she was on the right path to Hollywood success. But she wasn't only about fame or glamour. Rebecca continued to consider becoming a rabbi because of her deep interest in religion and philosophy. She wrestled with the big questions of life, even while chasing her dreams of acting. In 1985, Rebecca Schaeffer was certain she wanted to pursue a career in entertainment. And she wanted to spread her wings and be more daring. So, she decided to travel overseas and do more modeling work. She spoke with her parents about this, and they gave their support. And so, with great determination, she packed her bags and moved to Japan in hopes of finding more modeling jobs. At first, things appeared to move smoothly for her in Japan, but she started encountering some difficulty in finding jobs due to her height and weight. At 5 feet 7 inches, she was considered too short for high-fashion modeling and struggled to find work. And so, even though she did find some work and appeared in some magazines, she soon realized modeling wasn't what she truly wanted. Her dream was to act. So she returned to the United States and began auditioning in Los Angeles. Like every aspiring actor, she faced rejection after rejection, but Rebecca didn't give up. She had a confidence about her, a belief that if she kept trying, someone would notice her talent. Her persistence paid off. Rebecca landed small parts on television, including an appearance on the soap opera called One Life to Live in 1985. She also did some commercials and small roles, slowly building her resume. In 1986, Rebecca Schaeffer began to step into the world she had always dreamed of. She earned a small part in Woody Allen's comedy drama film called Radio Days. Most of her scenes were cut from the final film, leaving only a fleeting glimpse of her on screen. But for Rebecca, even that brief moment was proof that she was on the right path. She didn't stop there. While balancing the grind of modeling jobs and shifts as a waitress, she kept pushing forward. Her dedication paid off when her face appeared on the cover of 17 magazine. That single image would change everything. It caught the eye of television producers looking for new talent. They were casting for a sitcom, My Sister Sam. And when Rebecca walked into the room, her warmth and energy lit it up. She won the role of Patricia "Patty" Russell, a teenager forced to rebuild her life after tragedy, moving from Oregon to San Francisco to live with her older sister Samantha, played by Pam Dauber. Life began to mirror art. Rebecca and Dauber grew close, with Rebecca even living in her co-star's home during filming. On screen and off, she seemed destined for something special. When My Sister Sam premiered, it was an instant success. Millions tuned in, and the show broke into the top 25 rankings. Rebecca was becoming a household name. The chemistry between Dauber and Schaeffer was immediate, and audiences loved Rebecca's character. She was quirky, funny, and relatable, the perfect little sister figure for the show. Critics praised the show, and Rebecca quickly became a fan favorite. She received thousands of fan letters, and her face appeared in teen magazines across the country. She was becoming a star. But as quickly as the rise came, the fall followed. By April 1988, midway through its second season, the ratings slipped, and the series was canceled. Still, Rebecca's light hadn't dimmed. For her, this was just the beginning. After My Sister Sam came to an end, Rebecca Schaeffer refused to fade from the spotlight. She pressed forward, taking on supporting roles in films like Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills, Voyage of Terror, The Achille Lauro Affair, and The End of Innocence. She also appeared in the television movie Out of Time. Each role showed a different side of her growing talent. Hollywood was beginning to recognize her, not just as a sitcom star, but as a serious actress with range and promise. Behind the camera, Rebecca's heart was just as radiant. She devoted her time to Thursday's Child, a charity that supported vulnerable children in need. Her life seemed to be unfolding in exactly the way she had always hoped. Her career was taking shape, her compassion was touching lives, and the doors of Hollywood were beginning to open wider. But with every new opportunity, with every magazine feature, every television appearance, and every step closer to stardom, the shadows that trailed her grew darker. Because as Rebecca's world was opening, someone else's world was closing in. What no one could know at the time was that her growing fame was also drawing the attention of someone else, someone watching her from the shadows. With fame came something darker, attention from people who blurred the line between admiration and obsession. And unfortunately, one of those people would change her life forever. While Rebecca's career was rising, a young man was watching her from afar. His name was Robert John Bardo, a young fan who became obsessed with her. Bardo was born in Tucson, Arizona, in 1970. He grew up in a troubled home, the youngest of 7 children. His childhood was marked by abuse, neglect, and mental health struggles. Teachers described him as an isolated, angry boy who often lashed out. His childhood was marked by pain. He was reportedly abused by one of his siblings, and by his teenage years he was already showing signs of deep emotional turmoil. After threatening to take his own life, he was placed in foster care. Mental illness ran through his family, and Robert himself was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. At just 15 years old, he was institutionalized for a month to address his emotional struggles. School offered no refuge. Robert dropped out of Pueblo Magnet High School in the 9th grade, cutting short his education. He drifted, taking a job as a janitor at a Jack-in-the-Box restaurant, but his life never seemed to settle. As the years went by, his behavior grew darker. In the 18 months before Rebecca's murder, he was arrested 3 separate times on charges ranging from domestic violence to disorderly conduct. Neighbors recalled his strange, unpredictable behavior, sometimes menacing, often unsettling. He was a young man unraveling, and soon his obsession would find its focus in the bright, promising star of Rebecca Schaeffer. It is important to state that Rebecca was not the only celebrity that Bardo had been obsessed with. In fact, before his fixation on Rebecca Schaeffer, Robert John Bardo's obsessions had already taken shape. One of his earliest targets was Samantha Smith, the child peace activist who captured hearts around the world in the early 1980s. Inspired by her trip to the Soviet Union, Bardo convinced himself that he shared a special connection with her. He even traveled all the way to Maine in hopes of meeting her. But his plans fell apart. A routine traffic stop by state police left him rattled. The fear of drawing too much attention to himself forced him to retreat. Still, in his mind, the obsession never ended. He crafted future plans to seek her out. Those plans only dissolved when Samantha tragically died in a 1985 plane crash. After her death, Bardo's focus drifted. He admitted later that he became enamored with pop stars Tiffany and Debbie Gibson. But unlike Samantha, or the woman he would later fixate on, those obsessions never escalated to stalking. He confessed that he simply couldn't find a way to reach them in the chaos of New York City. That would change when he discovered Rebecca Schaeffer. She felt more accessible to him, closer, almost within reach. Bardo began writing her letters, dozens of them. When My Sister Sam aired, Bardo became more obsessed with Rebecca Schaeffer. To him, she wasn't just an actress playing a role, she was someone he felt destined to be with. He began writing her more letters, pouring out his thoughts and feelings. Rebecca actually got these letters and liked them. To Rebecca, these were just fan letters. She was polite and grateful to her fans, but she had no idea the depth of Bardo's obsession. At one time, she replied one of Bardo's letters and even sent him a signed picture of herself. When he got the reply from Rebecca, Bardo was completely excited. He could not believe she actually replied him. For days he was too excited to think properly. And when he eventually calmed down, he decided to write her more letters, hoping she would reply him again. In his mind, Rebecca was probably in love with him too. However, no matter how many letters he wrote to her, he never got another reply again. And this deeply frustrated him. Bardo's obsession deepened as the days went on. He began carrying a shrine of Rebecca's pictures and talking about her as if they were in a relationship. His family and neighbors noticed his strange behavior, but no one realized how dangerous he was becoming. He wrote to her again and again, desperate for even the smallest sign that she had noticed him. But the replies never came. When a single signature or a brief, polite response failed to materialize, he shifted tactics. He began calling the production office of My Sister Sam, dialing over and over in the hope that he might finally hear her voice. The calls went unanswered or were screened by studio staff. For nearly a year, the pattern repeated. He kept writing letters, then calling My Sister Sam's production office, and then writing more letters. But he never heard from Rebecca again. With each unanswered attempt, his frustration deepened, and so did his conviction that silence was not rejection but a challenge. By this time he was still a teenager, but his fixation had hardened into resolve. If messages and phone calls would not reach her, he decided he would go to her. He bought gifts meant to disarm her. He bought a towering novelty teddy bear and a bouquet of flowers, and boarded a plane from Arizona to Los Angeles with the intention of finding Rebecca and giving the gifts to her. When he got to Los Angeles, he went straight to the set of My Sister Sam and attempted to gain access to the studio lot, while clutching his gifts. He imagined that a grand gesture might break through the distance between them. However, security stopped him at the gate. He was turned away. Embarrassed but not feeling defeated at all, he flew back home to Arizona. But only weeks later he returned to Los Angeles and tried gaining access to the set again. This time he brought something more ominous. A knife tucked away with him, a sign that his fantasies were beginning to harden into dangerous contingency plans. Once again, he was refused entry. He left without incident, his disappointment smoldering into something colder. In 1988, My Sister Sam was cancelled, but Rebecca's career did not die with the show. She kept working, taking on film roles that showcased a growing maturity as an actress. In 1989, she appeared in the movie called Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills. The movie made some waves and Bardo decided to watch it as well. When Bardo saw Rebecca in the movie, he became enraged. This is because, in the movie, Rebecca's character had a love scene with another character. In the brief scene, she was seen in bed with an actor, and this pissed Bardo off. To him, this was a betrayal. As far as he was concerned, she was cheating on him. He believed she had sold out, that she wasn't the pure girl next door he imagined. To him, this was proof that the person he treasured had betrayed the image he had constructed. Jealousy turned to fury. The polite, pleading letters stopped. In their place rose a darker certainty. She had to be found, and she had to be punished. His fantasy crumbled, and anger took over. He began plotting to confront her. Around this time, Rebecca Schaeffer was just 21 years old, and Robert John Bardo was now 19, and had convinced himself that she needed to be punished. But how would he find her? He didn't know her address. He knew that to reach her, he needed more than letters and more than gifts. This time, he needed her home address. Not the studio lot where she once filmed, not a production office, but her actual residence. So he turned to a private investigator to help him get her house address. At the time, privacy laws were incredibly loose. Shockingly, the Department of Motor Vehicles would give out personal addresses to anyone who asked, for a small fee. And so, for a small fee, the investigator was able to do something simple and chilling. By walking into the California Department of Motor Vehicles, he pulled Rebecca's private records that included her home address. At the time, in 1989, there were no safeguards, no protections. Personal information was treated casually, and for Rebecca, that loophole would prove fatal. With her address in hand, Bardo began preparing for the moment he believed would define him. He tried to purchase a firearm legally, but when the paperwork required him to disclose his history of mental illness, the sale was denied when it was discovered that he had suffered mental illness. Frustrated, Bardo turned to his older brother and convinced him to buy a pistol for him. When his brother asked him what he needed a pistol for, Bardo said he needed it for target practice. His brother agreed, unaware of the sinister purpose it would serve. Armed with a weapon and driven by delusion, Bardo boarded a Greyhound bus from Tucson, Arizona, to Los Angeles. When he arrived, he wandered around Rebecca's neighborhood, asking strangers if she really lived there. Some confirmed that she did, and Bardo was happy. Now, he knew he was in the right place. It was July 18, 1989, a warm summer morning in Los Angeles. Rebecca was at home, preparing for an audition for Francis Ford Coppola's upcoming movie, The Godfather Part 3. She was excited and nervous. It was the kind of role that could launch her career to the next level. She had no way of knowing that, instead of a messenger with a script, a stalker was making his way to her front door. When the doorbell rang, she opened it expecting opportunity. Instead, she found Robert John Bardo. He was standing there looking at her with a sheepish excitement on his face. Rebecca had never seen him before. To her, he was just a stranger, a fan standing awkwardly outside her door. He smiled, introducing himself, telling her he was her biggest admirer. He even held out a picture she had once signed for him. But Rebecca was quite busy at the time. She had an audition to prepare for. The timing was strange and unsettling. Still, she was polite to Bardo. She told him she was grateful to him for being her fan and wished him well. She also told him she didn't have too much time as she was quite busy, and asked him to leave. Bardo did not expect her to ask him to leave, and so he was stunned. He walked away, but he did not go too far. He stopped at a nearby diner, ordered food, and sat alone, replaying the encounter in his mind. With every minute that passed, his disappointment curdled into anger. He convinced himself that she had rejected him, that she had humiliated him. And the more he thought about this, the more dangerous he became. About an hour later, Bardo returned to Rebecca's apartment. Again, he rang the doorbell. Rebecca answered, this time more annoyed than concerned. She had already told him to leave. Now he was back. You again, she said, her patience thinning. Bardo, who was already boiling with anger, did not say much. He told her he had something to give her. Then, in one quick motion, he drew the pistol his brother had supplied him. He aimed at her, pulled the trigger, and fired. Rebecca screamed, "Why?" before collapsing in her doorway. Her neighbor, horrified by the gunshot, rushed to help, but it was too late. She was rushed to the emergency room of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead 30 minutes after her arrival. Rebecca Schaeffer was just 21 years old. As Rebecca's life slipped away, Bardo fled from the scene, running through the streets of Los Angeles before eventually returning to Tucson, Arizona. The next day, he was spotted running down a highway, weaving through traffic, shouting over and over, "I killed Rebecca. I killed Rebecca," and confessing to police officers that he had killed Rebecca Schaeffer. He was quickly arrested. And just like that, he had ended the life of one of Hollywood's brightest lights, and America would never again look at fame, privacy, or obsession the same way.
Actress Rebecca Schaeffer was shot to death Tuesday in the doorway of her Los Angeles apartment.
Rebecca Schaeffer was a beautiful young TV star featured in the program My Sister Sam, but like John Lennon, Rebecca was stalked and shot down right outside her home, a frightening and senseless crime. Now,
the news of Rebecca's death shocked Hollywood. Her co-stars, friends, and fans were devastated. Pam Dauber, her on-screen sister from My Sister Sam, was heartbroken. The entertainment industry mourned the loss of a young woman whose career was only beginning. But the horror of her death also raised urgent questions. How could a stalker so easily find her home address? Why were there no protections for public figures against obsessive fans? Bardo was charged with first-degree murder. His defense tried to argue that he was mentally ill, but prosecutors made it clear that this was a premeditated act. He had planned the killing, obtained her address, and armed himself with a gun. In 1991, Robert John Bardo was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is still serving his sentence today at Avenal State Prison in California. Rebecca's murder wasn't just a tragedy, it was a turning point. Her case directly led to changes in laws surrounding privacy and stalking. The outrage over how easily Bardo obtained her address pushed Congress to pass the Driver's Privacy Protection Act of 1994, making it illegal for the DMV to release personal information to just anyone. Even more importantly, her case sparked the creation of California's first anti-stalking laws, which later spread across the United States. These laws recognized stalking as a serious crime, giving victims more protection against harassment and threats. In many ways, Rebecca's death saved countless lives by forcing lawmakers to address the dangers of stalking. Rebecca Schaeffer was only 21 years old when she died, but in her short life, she touched millions. She was remembered as kind, humble, and full of promise. Her friends said she never let fame get to her head, and she remained grounded, despite her rising stardom. Her parents were devastated, but they later spoke out about her case, determined that something good should come from their daughter's death. Hollywood, too, took her loss personally. Celebrities began advocating for stronger protections, and many credited Rebecca's case with finally bringing the dangers of obsessive fans into the spotlight. Today, Rebecca is remembered not just as a victim, but as a symbol of change. Her story remains a warning about the dark side of fame and the importance of protecting people's privacy. Rebecca Schaeffer's story is one of the saddest tragedies in Hollywood history. She had talent, beauty, and kindness, the makings of a true star. But in an instant, all of it was stolen by a man who mistook obsession for love. Her death forced society to confront the reality of stalking and the vulnerabilities of public figures. Laws were changed, protections were put in place, and awareness was raised, all because of Rebecca. But behind those legal victories is still the heartbreaking truth. A young woman with endless potential never got to live out her dreams. Rebecca Schaeffer should have had decades of films, shows, and moments to share with the world. Instead, we only have memories of what could have been. And maybe that's why her story continues to resonate today. It's not just about loss, but about how fragile life can be, and how important it is to protect the people we admire, both on and off the screen. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this in the future. Also, leave a like to help this channel out.